Hi, my dear students. Myself, Anush Shashidharan, Academic Director and Biology Faculty of Rankings Entrance Training Academy. I welcome all of you in my new video lesson. Today, I'm going to talk about biotechnology and its application, part 2. Dear students, today we have to discuss the biotechnological application in the field of medicine. As you know, in the last lesson we have discussed the application of biotechnology in the field of agriculture, and we have seen the production of different types of pest-resistant plants and different types of genetically modified crops. Okay, today we have to discuss the biotechnological application in the field of medicine. As you know, the recombinant DNA technological processes have made immense impact in the area of healthcare by enabling the mass production of safe and more effective therapeutics drugs. Okay, at present, about 30 recombinant therapeutics have been approved for human use the world over. Now, in India, 12 of these are presently being marketed. In this topic, first of all, we have to discuss about human insulin. I hope you are very familiar what is insulin. It's a hormone secreted by human pancreas. It plays an important role to maintain the blood glucose level. Because of the deficiency of insulin that caused a serious problem, it is called diabetes. As you are very familiar, the insulin used for diabetes was earlier extracted from the pancreas of slaughtered cattle and pigs. Okay, insulin from animal source caused allergy or any other types of reactions to the foreign protein. But nowadays, this problem had been solved because of the entry of genetically engineered insulin. That means the insulin production by using recombinant DNA technology. First of all, we have to discuss about genetically engineered insulin. First of all, discussing about the structure of human insulin. So in this diagrammatic representation, you can see that the human insulin is made up of 51 amino acids arranged in two polypeptide chains, A chain and a B chain, or alpha chain and a beta chain. Okay, when you consider the detailed structure, the A chain having 21 amino acid and B chain with 30 amino acids are linked together by disulfide bridges. Okay, as you know, in mammals, including humans, the insulin is synthesized as a proinsulin or a prohormone which contain an extra stretch called a C-peptide. In this diagrammatic representation, this is the C-peptide. This is actually an extra stretch. Okay, in second diagrammatic representation, the same diagram already in your NCERT textbook. This is actually pro-insulin, and this ash colored portion is the C-peptide. So when you consider the mature insulin, it's actually having two polypeptide chains, the A chain and the B chain, connected by means of disulfide bridges. As you know, this C-peptide is not present in the mature insulin, and that should be removed during maturation into insulin. Okay, the main challenge for the production of insulin by using genetic engineering aspects or rDNA technological aspects was getting insulin as a assembled into a mature form. Is it clear? The main challenge for the production of insulin using recombinant DNA technique was getting insulin assembled in a mature form. Okay, in 1983, an American company named Eli Lilly prepared two DNA sequences corresponding to A chain and B chains of human insulin. And they have introduced that particular genes into the plasmid of E. coli to produce the insulin chains. This is a diagrammatic representation showing the production of human insulin. Okay, that means first of all, what they have done, they have prepared the DNA sequences corresponding to the A chain and B chain separately, and that particular gene had been introduced into different Escherichia coli bacterium, okay, with the help of different plasmids, and both type of bacterium grown in different bioreactors, and the products or the proteins produced, what we can say, A chain and B chain separately. Afterwards, the A chain and B chain isolated or separated from the bioreactor, and combined by creating disulfide bond to form human insulin. This is the method used by Eli Lilly company for the commercial production of human insulin. Is it clear? So what they have done, first of all, the company have prepared two DNA sequences corresponding to A and B chains of human insulin, and introduced them in the plasmid of E. coli to produce the A chain and B chain separately. Okay, the chain A and B were produced separately, extracted and combined by creating disulfide bond to form human insulin. This is the method used by Eli Lilly company for the commercial production of human insulin. Dear students, now we have to discuss what is gene therapy. As you know, gene therapy is a collection of methods that allows the correction of a gene defect that has been diagnosed in a child or embryo. Okay, and this type of treatments or gene therapy commonly using for the treatment of certain hereditary diseases such as SCID, hemophilia, sickle cell anemia, etc. Is it clear? It's actually a new system of medicine to treat some hereditary diseases such as SCID. It means severe combined immunodeficiency, hemophilia, sickle cell anemia, etc. As you know, the correction of a genetic defect involves delivery of a normal gene into the individual or embryo to take over the function and compensate for the non-functional gene. So this method we can commonly using for the correction of a gene defect. Okay, in this technique, what we are doing, we are actually delivering a normal gene into the individual or embryo for takeover the function of diseased gene or problematic gene. Okay, now we have to discuss in detail. Dear students, the first clinical gene therapy was given in 1990 to a 4-year-old girl with adenosine deaminase deficiency. This is called SCID, severe combined immunodeficiency. As you know, adenosine deaminase, it's actually an enzyme which is very crucial for the immune system to function. Even the absence of adenosine deaminase, our immune system won't be able to function perfectly. As the first step towards the gene therapy, what they have done, the lymphocytes from the blood of the patient are grown on a culture outside the body. Okay, this is the diagrammatic representation of the gene therapy for SCID, severe combined immunodeficiency. At first step towards the gene therapy, what they have done, the lymphocytes from the patient's body, okay, separated and allowed to grow on a culture medium. This is actually the lymphocyte called T lymphocytes, the T cells. Okay, the T cells, the problematic T cells extracted from the patient's body and allowed to growing in a culture medium. Can you see? Afterwards, what happened? A functional ADA cDNA. What is the meaning of cDNA? Complementary DNA. A functional complementary DNA which are able to produce adenosine deaminase enzyme then introduced into the lymphocytes. Look, this is actually the lymphocyte. That lymphocytes is actually having defected ADA gene. Okay, then now what we are doing, we have to introduce the ADA cDNA. That means the functional complementary DNA which are able to produce adenosine deaminase. that should be introduced into the lymphocytes by using a retroviral vector. Here you can see the name LASN, L-A-S-N. It's actually a retroviral vector for ADA gene transfer to the lymphocytes. Afterwards, what happened? The ADA cDNA had already been entered inside the cell, and that particular cell should be again allowed to grow and amplify in a culture medium and subsequently return to the patient body. Is it clear? So as a result, that genetically modified lymphocytes which are having ADA complementary DNA that should be function in the patient body. Is it clear? But the main problem we face in this process, the WBC or lymphocytes, you are very familiar, they are not immortal. So, the periodic infusion of such genetically modified lymphocytes is needed for the health of the patient. However, if the gene is isolated from the bone marrow cells producing ADA, I mean adenosine deaminase enzyme is introduced into the cells at the early embryonic stages, it could be a permanent cure. But the technique we have discussed over here, that means the modification of lymphocytes, that is not a permanent cure. Why? Because you are very familiar, the lymphocytes are not immortal. As you know, its lifespan is very less. So the periodic infusion of such type of genetically modified lymphocytes is necessary. Okay, so which one is a permanent cure? If the gene isolate from the bone marrow cells of a normal man or normal human producing ADA is introduced into the cells at the early embryonic stages, it could be a permanent cure. Is it clear? This is something about the process of gene therapy. Dear students, now we have to discuss about molecular diagnosis. As you know, using conventional methods of diagnosis of diseases, especially by using serum or urine analysis, the early detection is not possible. Okay, traditionally we were using different diagnostic methods like the usage of serum or urine analysis. So in this case, the early detection of a particular disease is not possible. You are very familiar, the early detection of a particular disease or the early diagnosis of a particular disease is necessary for proper treatment, isn't it? But nowadays, you are very familiar, we are having different types of biotechnological aspects using for the early diagnosis of a particular disease. Nowadays, the recombinant DNA technology, polymerase chain reaction, and enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, commonly called ELISA, are some of the techniques that serve as the purpose of early diagnosis. All these are biotechnological aspects or processes we are using for the early detection of a particular disease. Is it clear? What are the most important significance of molecular diagnosis? As you know, molecular diagnostics like PCR, you remember PCR, polymerase chain reaction, which can able to detect the pathogens even at a very low concentration. That means whenever the pathogen should enter our body, at that time itself we can identify the presence of pathogen by the amplification of nucleic acid of the pathogen. Okay, this method we can commonly using for the detection of different diseases nowadays. As you know, to detect the human immunovirus in suspected AIDS patient, okay, the PCR commonly using for detecting the human immunodeficiency virus, especially in case of AIDS patients. We can also using the PCR to detect the mutation in the genes in suspected cancer patients too. Is it clear? What is the meaning of mutation? You are very familiar. Mutations are actually the heritable changes. That means the changes of nucleotides in a particular DNA or changes of base pairs. Is it clear? To detect the mutation in the genes in suspected cancer patients also, we are using PCR. But nowadays, we are very familiar. Most of the genetic disorders can be detected by using another important technology called autoradiography. Now we are going to discuss in detail how can we detect the genetic disorders by using autoradiography. Dear students, this is actually the procedure for autoradiography, and now we are going to discuss how can we detect the genetic problem by using autoradiographic methods. As you know, first of all, the same procedure we are using that we have learned in recombinant DNA technology. First of all, we have to isolate the DNA. The procedure you are very familiar. Then second one, the amplification of the DNA by using PCR, polymerase chain reaction. And you know, fragmentation of DNA by using restriction endonucleases. And next one, we have to do the separation of DNA fragments by using gel electrophoresis. Listen, dear students, this is actually the gel electrophoresis. Okay, the importance of gel electrophoresis, you are very familiar, the separation of DNA fragments according to their lengths. Okay, in case of identifying the genetic disorders, the next step what we are doing, the denaturation of DNA molecules on the gel. What is the meaning of denaturation? Denaturation means the separation of two strands. That means the double-stranded DNA should be converted into single-stranded DNA. Afterwards, the another important step is called Southern blotting. So up to denaturation that we have discussed in recombinant DNA technology. So what is the purpose? Now we are going to detect the mutation or any genetic problem in the DNA. Okay, we have to diagnose or identify the genetic diseases. So in the fifth step or sixth step, it is called the Southern blotting. What is Southern blotting? Here you can see that the DNA fragments, the single stranded DNA fragments on the gel that should be transferred to a nitrocellulose membrane. This process is called Southern blotting. Now you are very familiar, as per gel electrophoresis, all the DNA molecule had been separated and now it is present on the gel, isn't it? From the gel, the DNA molecule should be shifted to a nitrocellulose membrane. The process is called Southern blotting. Is it clear? Next step, what we are doing, we are actually using the single-stranded DNA or RNA molecule tagged with a radioactive molecule. Okay, this is called a probe. Okay, in this step, what we are doing, we are using a probe. Probe means single-stranded DNA or RNA molecule which are labeled with the radioactive molecule. Okay, that is called the probe. In the seventh step, what we are doing, we are allowing the process of hybridization using the radioactive labeled probe. Now you are very familiar, all the DNA fragments had already been transferred on a nitrocellulose sheath. Okay, now what we are doing, we are allowing to hybridize this DNA with a probe. What is a probe? Probe is actually a DNA or RNA molecule which are tagged with a radioactive molecule. Now it is called a probe. Okay, this probe actually complementary to the normal DNA. So clear, this probe or artificially synthesized DNA which are labeled with the radioactive molecule which are complementary to the normal DNA on the nitrocellulose gel. So clear, as a result of hybridization, what happened? If the DNA molecules are not at all mutated, that means if there is no genetic disorder, what happened? The probe had already been hybridized. Suppose you think about it, if any mutation had occurred on the DNA fragments, the probe won't be able to hybridize. Why? Because the probe, they are not at all complementary with the mutated gene. Is it clear? Finally, what we have to do? We have to do the last process called autoradiography. That means one X-ray film is actually exposed on the nitrocellulose sheet and take the image for hybridization. So afterwards on the X-ray film, we can identify the hybridized DNA. Okay, you are very familiar. The clone having mutated gene, that means the DNA fragments on the nitrocellulose sheet or nitrocellulose membrane have already having mutated gene will not appear on the X-ray film, will not appear on the photographic film. Why? Because the probe will not have complementarity with the mutated gene. If the probe had already been hybridized with the gene, we can say that they are not having the person, they are not having any genetic disorder. There is no mutation. Suppose you think about it, if the probe or DNA, radioactive labeled DNA that already been hybridized, the person is actually disease free. That means they are not having genetic disease. Suppose if the probe won't be able to hybridize on the DNA, what we can conclude, the DNA had already been mutated. That means the genetic disorder is there. So this is the way in which we can diagnose the genetic disorders by using the technique of autoradiography. Last one we have to discuss ELISA. ELISA we have discussed earlier, enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. This is another important molecular diagnostic tool with the help of antigen antibody interaction. So clear, it's actually working on the principle of antigen antibody interactions. In case of ELISA, we can detect the pathogen by the presence of antigens like proteins or glycoproteins, or by the antibodies synthesized against the pathogen. As you know, when a pathogen enters our body, what happens? Our immune system should start synthesizing the antibodies. So by using the ELISA, I mean the enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, we can find out the presence of antibodies in our body with the help of certain antigens. So because of the antigen antibody interactions, we can identify either the antigen or the antibodies synthesized in our body against the pathogen. So we can identify the diseases by using the ELISA tests. Is it okay? Another important concept we have to discuss, it is called transgenic animals. Now you can see so many different types of transgenic animals. What is the meaning of transgenic animals? As you know, the transgenic animals may be defined as the animals that have their DNA manipulated to possess and express a foreign gene are known as transgenic animals. We can simply say the genetically modified animals we can collectively call the transgenic animals. As you know, 90% of transgenic animals are transgenic mice. Okay, do you know why we are actually creating that large amount of transgenic animals? Why? Because the transgenic animals are actually using by humans for various purposes. So now let me discuss the reasons to produce transgenic animals. First of all, the normal physiology and development. Dear students, transgenic animals are designed to study different aspects of genes, especially how a gene is regulated or how a particular gene affects the normal function of the body and its development. That means to study the normal physiology and development of a particular gene, we are using transgenic animals. Is it clear? Suppose you think about it, you have to identify, you have to study the normal working of a particular gene. So what we are doing directly, we have to use the gene in the transgenic animal. Okay, for example, if you need to study some type of growth factor like insulin, okay, you want to learn the study the action of insulin Okay, the action of a growth factor like insulin. Okay, so what you have to do? You have to introducing genes from any other species that alter the formation of this factor. That means we are using the genes from any other species and we can prevent the functioning of genes responsible for the production of insulin. As a result, what happened? We can study the effects that result. That means in the absence of insulin, how the body will damage, or how the body will tolerate the absence of insulin, that we can study. And also we can obtain about the biological role of the factor. So we can find out the biological role of insulin. Suppose you think about it, by using biotechnological aspects, we are actually suppressing the genes responsible for the production of insulin. What happened? Our body will not be able to produce insulin. As a result, the glucose concentration, I mean the amount of glucose, should be increased. Okay, such type of studies, we are not using humans. We are using genetically modified animals. Okay, we are using transgenic animals for studying this type of aspects. Okay, next one, the study of diseases. Dear students, we are using different types of transgenic animals as a model for human diseases, in which the investigations of new treatments for diseases and also gives understanding how genes contribute to the development of disease. So clear, suppose to think about it, you have to identify the function of a particular gene, how it causes diseases. Okay, so we can use transgenic animals. Nowadays, we are having the transgenic animal models for studying different types of diseases like cancer, cystic fibrosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and Alzheimer's disease. Third one, we are using the transgenic animals for the production of different types of biological products. Okay, the products produced by living organism, some of which are medicine, and its normal production is much expensive. So we are using transgenic animals for the production of such type of biological products. Transgenic animals can be created by introduction of genes which code for a particular product. Is it clear? For example, for example, you can see that some type of organisms can be able to produce certain desirable proteins, especially human protein called alpha-1 antitrypsin, commonly using for the treatment of emphysema. The same concept we have learned in the first chapter, I mean the biotechnology 1. That means the transgenic animals we are using for the production of human insulin. Like here it is human protein called alpha-1 antitrypsin. So the method you are very familiar. Okay. And nowadays we are actually using the same attempt to make different types of proteins for the treatment of phenylketonuria and cystic fibrosis. Dear students, in 1997, the first transgenic cow named Rosie. Okay, the first transgenic cow named Rosie prepared. Okay, what is the specialty of Rosie? It can produce the human protein enriched milk. Okay, the human alpha lactalbumin. And we can use this milk as a nutritionally more balanced product for human babies than natural cow milk. Is it clear? Which is the first transgenic cow? Rosie. What is the specialty of this particular animal? It can produce the milk which contain human protein named alpha lactalbumin. Okay, what is the human alpha lactalbumin? And now it is using as a nutritionally more balanced diet or product for human babies than natural cow milk. Okay, the amount of the particular protein 2.4 grams per liter. Fourth one, we are using transgenic animals for vaccine safety. As you know, transgenic mice are being developed for use in testing the safety of vaccine before they are used on humans. Okay, suppose you think about if we are actually identifying a particular vaccine, first of all, we have to test it in transgenic animals, especially we are using transgenic mice. Afterwards, we can use on humans. The last one, chemical safety testing. Transgenic animals are made that carry genes which make them more sensitive to toxic substances than non-transgenic animals. They are then exposed to toxic substances and the effects should be studied. So this is a way in which we can identify or we can test the particular chemical before the usage. All these are the different uses of transgenic animals. Dear students, I hope you have understood all these concepts. Okay, you are requested to go through this video lesson again and again for better understanding. Thank you. Have a nice day.